Donald Trump knows that the storyline that the media wants you to believe is that these government workers, the 800,000 workers right now who are in rough times because of this shutdown, are not actually suffering that much. He's not too worried. He's got some tips as well, by the way, so he's a helpful guy. I mean, look, he's made a bunch of different businesses, quite successful, has done very well for himself. He understands how to get things done. And so he's got some advice for people who aren't being paid right now, that have the unfortunate necessity of eating food. And here's what the president suggested.
Mr. President, you see Wilbur Ross said that he doesn't understand why federal workers need help getting food. Can you understand?
No, I haven't heard the statement, but I do understand. Perhaps he should have said it differently. Local people know who they are when they go for groceries and everything else. And I think what Wilbur is probably trying to say is that they will work along. I know banks are working along. If you have mortgages, the mortgagees, the folks collecting the interest and all of those things, they work along. And that's what happens in time like this. They know the people, they've been dealing with them for years, and they work along. The grocery store, and I think that's probably what Wilbur Ross meant, but I haven't seen a statement, no. But he's done a great job, I will tell you that.
I don't know. There's a lot there that I don't get. It is very rare that a person can, in a 30-second span, make clear that they don't understand the day-to-day experience of regular people who are struggling and also know absolutely nothing about how things at sort of the top tiers of the economy work either. But he did both. Let's also briefly note, he started that by saying, no, I haven't heard the statement, but maybe he should have said it differently. Well, okay, that's a weird evaluation to make. If you don't know, I don't know what he said, and here is my attempt to interpret in fine detail what I think he said and how he should have said it. Okay, one of those things might be true, I don't know. And then he goes in and says two things. So he's talking, there you're seeing Wilbur Ross saying that he doesn't get, why are people with no money concerned about food? Why don't they just, I don't know, like, I guess he survives on ambient necrotic energy flowing through the universe. He doesn't actually consume carbs or fat or protein or anything like that. Anyway, Donald Trump says if you are hungry, it's easy. Just what was it, move along, get along? His expression that wipes away all concerns about people losing their houses and businesses. So he says go to a grocery store and just, get some food and then you pay them later or whatever. So best case scenario, he's advising people to shoplift, because the alternative is that he thinks that you just go to stores and everybody knows each other. It's like a sitcom from the 1950s and hey, just put it on my tab, Joe. That's not how supermarkets work. They don't just give you food and then someday you pay them. Not any of the supermarkets I've ever been to either. But it's perhaps not so surprising that Donald Trump doesn't understand how supermarkets work, considering some of his past statements about the same subject.
Which is why the time has come for voter ID, like everything else. If you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID. You go out and you want to buy anything, you need ID and you need your picture.
What does he think happens in Stop and Shop? I don't know what he thinks is going on at HEB. First of all, you don't need to hey, here's my picture. This is me. This is me. Note the difference in hair. Please let me buy bread. That's not how it works. They don't want your picture. They do, however, want cash. They do want, I guess it's got pictures. It's not my picture, it's like Lincoln's picture. But you do need money. At the same time, this is a businessman. His credential for getting into office was that he understands business. And he said, well, the banks they're gonna get along. If you've got mortgages and you collect interest, is that what they do? He doesn't get any part of this economy. And is it any surprise? Because he is obviously very wealthy. Much of that money was bequeathed to him from his family. He has stumbled along ever since then, being bailed out by the government at every single turn. And he has probably not set foot in a convenience store for something like the last 30 years. So of course he doesn't understand what people who are affected by the shutdown are actually going through. And so he makes buffoonish statements like that. So just briefly, here is some of what is actually going on for real people who exist on the material plane while the shutdown is going on, which by the way is in day 35 now, as you can see there. So let's take a look at this. FAA delays flights at New York's LaGuardia Airport, citing staffing shortages amid a government shutdown. Apparently, there are a couple of other airports that are also grounding flights because people are no longer showing up to work. I mean, we talked with an air traffic controller earlier this week, but we know that TSA is also facing rising rates of people not showing up because they haven't been paid for 35 days. It's a big issue. It's sort of significant. Now, they have attempted to reassure people, saying, we've noticed a slight uptick in the people taking sick days. Okay, perhaps it's slight. I imagine that of the people who can survive for 35 days without getting paid, there's probably less that can survive for 36 or 40 or 50 or 100. And so if they're grounding flights at day 35, where are we gonna be on day 70 as a country? I think it's gonna be a significant problem. And Donald Trump is ready to do something about it, but not really to solve the problem of the shutdown. He just still wants to get his wall. A report has been circulating saying that he has a draft proclamation for a national emergency along the southern border that they're still working on as of a week ago that would also identify $7 billion in potential funds for his border wall. So that money would come from Treasury forfeiture funds, military construction, Pentagon civil works funds, and $200 million in Department of Homeland Security funds. None of those funds are intended to build completely optional, unnecessary walls along the southern border. They are intended for some things, though. Those will not be funded. He is going to, if this goes through and he is considering doing it, he is simply going to take that money, tell people who are dealing with the aftermath of disasters and things like that to just go screw themselves, and he's going to spend it driving steel slats into a couple thousand miles of our border with Mexico. So we are suffering as the shutdown goes on. He has a potential out for himself that involves taking some of your hard-paid tax money and completely wasting it on metal and concrete at the border. What is going on in our country? Thank you very much for watching this clip from the Damage Report. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell on YouTube to get notifications of our new videos. And of course, you can catch the full Damage Report live every weekday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on TYT Network on YouTube TV.